forth. Before we begin, we would like to do roll call. Mr. Carter. Thank you. And thank you once again, everyone, for being here. So the COVID-19 pandemic continues to preclude us from meeting safely in our council chambers. We must therefore continue to operate in this virtual fashion using the public comment guidelines outlined by the Louisiana Attorney General. Here are the public comment rules that we will follow today. At the beginning of the meeting, staff will read the agenda for today's meeting in its entirety. That agenda is also online at council.nola.gov. We will then recess for 15 minutes to allow citizens to submit written comments for any agenda item. Anyone wishing to comment should go to council.nola.gov and fill out an online public comment form. Only written public comments will be accepted. Public comment will be limited to 1 comment per person per item. Comments should also be limited to 2 minutes when read aloud and be germane to the agenda item at hand. Public comment will be closed at the end of the 15-minute public comment period. No written comments will be accepted beyond that point. Before voting on an agenda item, council staff will read public comment received for a pending agenda item. For the public's understanding, we will be doing 30 minutes of public comment for each agenda item read in the order that they were received. All comments submitted will be distributed to council offices for their review. Adam, is that correct?
That is correct, Councilmember.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, Mr. Carter, would you please read the agenda in full?
For A, Governmental Commission, for other, B, for B, C, for Commission, or C, Development Board, Purchase Shields, Jones, for D, Metropolitan Services District, Marcus Stopper, Mike Miller, for E, Resignation Board, Judge Renee Johnson. For F, Public Library Board, and 2005.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Carter. So with that, we're going to recess for 15 minutes. Mr. Carter, what would be the exact time that we will reconvene? 3:18. So we will see you then. Thank you all very much. Council members. Council members, it's been 15 minutes. We're going to wait 3 more minutes because we need to sort some of these more public comment cards. So let's take 5 more minutes, please. Thank you. Okay. Council members, are we ready to come back in? Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We had a few public comment cards that Andrew needed to go through. Can you please do roll call to bring us back on, Mr. Carter?
Chair. Present. Councilmember Moreno. Councilmember Moreno. Councilmember Joseph, present. Councilmember Brasset.
Present. Present.
We currently have 4 members present.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. With that, could I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes from the January 21st meeting?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Moved by Councilmember Brasset. Did I hear a second by Councilmember Geruso? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. With that, let's go straight to appointments. Mr. Carter. Great. So this is moved for Troy Glover. Do I have a motion to approve? I know
Move to approve, Mr. Glover.
Great. Move to approve by Councilman Brasset. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Nay. Great. Thank you. The next appointment is for Deirdre Pierce Kelly. Yes, Councilmember Moreno was an aye. I'm sorry? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval. Councilmember Palmer, I'm squinching my eyes because it's very hard to hear what Nathan is saying.
I agree. I can't.
And so that's why I'm trying to pick up your facial expressions to see what he is saying.
Okay, so to repeat right now, he has read Deirdre Pierce Kelly's name as an appointment for the Audubon Commission. He has said that he has found her questionnaire to be in order. So at this point, I need a motion
I would
to,
move to approve.
Second.
okay. So it was moved by Councilman Brasset, seconded by whom?
Moreno.
Councilman Moreno?
And Madam Chair, if you, okay, I'm sorry.
No, yes, please, Councilman Brasset.
I would just add that on today, I received an updated version copy of Ms. Kelly's questionnaire. And I decided to move forward with her nomination, not to a fault of her own or my office's fault. We just received that updated copy today. And as just stated, her questionnaire is in order, and I thank her for being willing to serve, as she also serves on the ABO commission.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilman Brasset. With that, I think we have, would anybody else like to make a comment? All right, we have 2 public comments.
The first public comment is from Jermaine Smith, not a paid representative. Good afternoon, members of the Governmental Affairs Committee. I would like to once again voice concern over the nomination of Deirdre Pierce Kelly to the Audubon Commission. As stated in previous public comment, there are clear concerns about ethical integrity that should be addressed by the council and shared with the public before approving the appointment. Given the nature of her past mistake, I am still eager to hear more about Ms. Kelly's character before she is approved to join and steward one of New Orleans' largest and most precious assets. The second comment is from Justin Schmidt, not a paid representative. Good afternoon. As you are all aware, yesterday by email to Mayor Cantrell, I requested that you withdraw the name of Deirdre Pierce Kelly from consideration of appointment to the Audubon Commission. Included with that email, on which each of you were copied, was written documentation supporting my request. Out of respect for the candidate, I am not going to reiterate these details in this forum. The mayor apparently was not persuaded by my position and immediately responded. Thank you, Justin, for your email and feedback. As you know, council research reviews and determines if all requirements are met once the questionnaire is submitted by the potential appointee. If so, it moves forward in the process, and if not, it does not. No embarrassment, sir. Thank you. Thanks again, and you take care, Latoya. Section 4-206E of the Home Rule Charter of the City of New Orleans states that, quote, "The mayor shall have the power and shall be required to appoint with the approval of a majority of the members of the council, members of all boards, except as otherwise provided in this chapter or by applicable state or municipal law." Section 9-101 of the city code states that the term board, as used in this chapter, shall be construed as applying to boards, commissions, authorities, and other public bodies except the council. Section 9-104 of the city code states, if the appointment of a board member requires the approval of the council, such approval shall be granted only by the affirmative vote of the majority of all members of the council. Under these provisions, the council is just as responsible for the appointment of board members and commissioners as the mayor is, and serves more than a rubber stamp for questionable political appointments. I ask that you please exercise your discretion endorsed by the voting public to disapprove of this appointment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, we have one, I think it was Councilman Brossette moved. We seconded by Councilman Moreno. I guess do we do a roll call, please? All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. I am abstaining from this one. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just as Mr. Carter to update the website with the updated questionnaire.
Yes, he has, Councilman Brossette. So he's updated it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, with that. Thank you so much. With that, we now go to our next appointments. And, just for clarity, since it's hard to hear Mr. Carter, I'll repeat what he says for virtue of that.
Councilmember, I'll take it over from Nathan for this meeting.
Okay, well, that would be even better. Thank you, Paul.
The next item is the appointment of Gregory Pierce to the CBD Historic District Landmarks Commission, and his questionnaire is in order.
Thank you so much. All right, do we have a motion on Mr. Pierce's appointment to CBD Historic District Landmarks Commission?
So moved.
I'm sorry, was that moved by Councilman Giarrusso?
I'll get Council President and I'll second.
Okay, moved by Council President Moreno, second by Councilman Giarrusso. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Paul, the next one is for the Industrial Development Board.
Right, Rachel Shields for the Industrial Development Board, and her questionnaire is in order.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion to approve Rachel Shields to the Industrial Development Board?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Giarrusso,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Moreno. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Great, thank you.
Next
Next,
appointment is for Edith Jones to the Industrial Development Board. Her questionnaire is in order.
thank you so much. Do we have a motion to approve Edith Jones to the Industrial Development Board?
So move.
Moved by Councilman Nguyen, seconded by, was that Council President?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Metropolitan Human Service District. Paul?
Marcus Bachhuber for the Metropolitan Human Services District, and we have found his questionnaire to be in order.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Councilmember Jeruso, seconded
Second.
by Councilmember Nguyen. Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Next is Mike Miller. Paul?
Mike Miller's appointment, nomination to the Metropolitan Human Services District. His questionnaire is found to be in order.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion to accept Mr. Miller's appointment to the Metropolitan Human Services District?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Moreno, second by
Second.
Councilman Jeruso. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No? Thank you. Next, we're going to the New Orleans Aviation Board.
This is Burnett Johnson's nomination to the New Orleans Aviation Board, and her questionnaire is in order.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion? I think everybody wants to move on this one. A motion to accept Chief Justice Burnett Johnson as the Aviation Board.
So moved.
Moved by Council President Moreno, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Jeruso. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Great. Next, we go to the New Orleans Public Library Board. Paul?
Dana Henry's nomination to the New Orleans Public Library Board. His questionnaire is in order.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Nguyen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Brissett. Thank you so much. With that, I know we're going to go into public comment. I had invited Mr. Henry to come because there had been a lot of public comments at the last meeting, and we deferred it in order to give him the opportunity to speak to both of the public comment as well as to allow the administration to speak on Mr. Henry's behalf. Would we like to start with Mr. Cox and then Mr. Henry? Mr. Cox, as representative of the mayor for intergovernmental relations, would you please, I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. You know, the mayor is really excited about Dana Henry's appointment for two key reasons. The first is that he's qualified. Beyond being a lawyer, which is a skill set that's going to be critical on the board, his professional experience is going to be a huge asset. He spent time at Stanford Children, spent time at the Urban League, and now he's at Einstein Charter Schools, all places that are deeply rooted, not just in community, but in what's good for kids. This actually brings me to my second point, which is that in order for agencies like the library and the school system to provide the best outcomes for kids and for families, they've got to be working together. You know, the mayor has appointed Rocky Dufachard to the library board. She's also a member of NORD, of the NORD board. Similarly, it just makes sense to have someone who's been a champion for early childhood education, who understands the school system and who is connected to that world, be a critical part of leading the library. I mean, frankly, these entities don't exist on their own. There's no secret that in New Orleans, this is a city where only 30% of our third graders are reading on grade level. And so it's critical in order for us to be able to serve kids and families as best we can, that we've got the education system and someone with expertise on this board working in conjunction with the library so that we can get the best outcomes needed for kids. So the mayor is really excited about Dana's leadership. Members of the community who've gotten a chance to work with him have said nothing but great things. He's known as a stalwart advocate for early childhood education, and he's going to be an incredible asset on the board.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Cox. Mr. Henry, would you like to have any public comment? I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Sure. I feel like I need a disclaimer after Josh's statements, you know, not paid to make these statements. First of all, I want to thank the committee, Madam Chair, and the staff, because I didn't anticipate that my nomination to the library board would be contentious. I didn't intend it that way, and I'm sure the mayor didn't either. But with that being, a public body, a public agency like the library, and using tax dollars, I welcome the opportunity to share my thoughts about how I can assist, in addition to what Josh said. I've worked tirelessly, not for press releases and not for any accolades behind the scenes in early childhood funding, in the K-12 advocacy space, and definitely in grade level reading space, to make sure that, our most precious and vulnerable assets in the city, mainly our kids, have an opportunity to realize the lives that many of us have. And I just want to continue that work as a board member of the library. I know there has been, on the board of the library, I know there's been some concerns about my public support for Proposition 2 back in December that failed. We went through a democratic process and everybody put their best foot forward, and it didn't pass. However, I have successfully in the past been able to separate multiple issues to make sure that at the end of the day, the citizens in the city of New Orleans are served. And I can do the same thing on the library board. And just to reiterate what Josh mentioned and what the mayor knows is our K-12 public education space, our early education space, our literacy advocacy space, and the libraries all have to come together to fight, which Cade Brumley, our state superintendent, said as short as last week, we are losing the literacy battle in our city and state. And if we don't get our kids on grade reading level by the time they go from 3rd to 4th grade, we can project out the potential negative outcomes in engagement with the criminal justice system that I know none of us want. So I humbly ask for your support. I've reached out to some people personally that expressed some concerns about my candidacy, and I've had some good dialogue with some and no dialogue with others. But with that being said, I'm ready to serve, and I would love and humbly ask for your support as the next board member on the New Orleans Public Library.
Thank you so much, Mr. Henry. I see Council President Moreno, did you want to have a comment? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Hey, Dana, how are you? First, I do want to say that I'm very familiar with your work in early childhood education and experiences, and I want to thank you for all you've done in that regard, and really working with you on that in particular, all the way back to my days in the legislature. So just when it comes to the library board, I think we should, kind of make clear on where you stand on some issues, because they are important to me, and I know some other members of the council. One of those being the library strategic plan that is being developed. I want to make sure that that you're in support of putting together that strategic plan quickly but thoroughly, and that there is enough public engagement around that particular plan. Can you give me your thoughts on that?
Can I give you my thoughts on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think, considering financially where the city is and where we need to be with trying to do more with less, I think at most agencies, my thoughts with the strategic plan is that this is a perfect opportunity to continue to fully fund and serve the library based upon the demand that's out there and the need that's out there. I can tell you as a lifelong New Orleans East resident, one of the things that I'm going to strongly encourage in the plan is that we look at adding some auxiliary libraries in New Orleans East, maybe attached or in conjunction in partnerships with our schools. I mean, we have 80,000 people in New Orleans East, and we have one library. That's like having one library in Lake Charles. I'm not sure if they do, but if they do, they need more than just one in a city like that. But, those are the sort of equity concerns I have. Also, rethinking the partnerships and connecting the dots between public schools, early childhood literacy campaigns, and the libraries themselves. And, the strategic plan is our instrument to do that. We all have to come together collectively. I had a great conversation with someone affiliated with the library on the West Bank and Council Member Kristen Palmer's district. And, this is an opportunity for us to really be innovative, think outside the box, and really identify some strong community partnerships to make sure that, the next 5 years of the library is fully funded and fully effective so that everyone can truly benefit from the service offerings that are there. So I strongly support, and I'm going to jump into the strategic planning process as soon as my nomination is approved.
Appreciate that, Dana. And then the other thing too that, obviously some of us have started discussing again is on the millage. Obviously, the previous millage attempt that did not pass. The people of the city have clearly spoken, so I'm prepared to move forward with the full renewal. Are you supportive of that?
a full renewal of the library millage? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we just if I can, just 30 seconds, the situation that we were put in terms of the millage on December the 5th was, you know, we had to pick a certain direction to go in. And it's unfortunate, but that's just how it was because of the timing. But I am in full support of a fully funded library millage to make sure that the services that the library has funded for years continues, because there are lots of people, especially, again, I live in New Orleans East, and I talk to Councilmember Wynn on a regular basis. There are parents in New Orleans East who they don't have internet access in their homes. So the only way they can register their child for one app is to go to our public library on Reed Boulevard. So we have to make sure that those services, stay functional so that they can just do basic things. For many of us, it's basic, but for them, enrolling their kid or children in school is critical. So I fully fund and fully support the millage to fund the library moving forward.
Thank you so much, Dana. Appreciate your answers, and I will be supporting your nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Council President. Would anybody else have another comment? I think I'm going to reserve mine until after public comment. Are there any other comments? Great. With that, we have to go into public comment. I think we stated it was going to be for half an hour. Just for the record, the comments will be read in order that they came in, and they're being read in the order they came into on the website, not necessarily council members. I know all of you may have been receiving emails directly into your offices. In addition to that, these comments are also being read, like I said, from the public comment section for the this particular meeting. I would also like to publicly state there too, there was a certain publication that put something out that said all of the previous public comments were thrown away from the last meeting. I just want to, I appreciate the intent that this publication really wants to ensure the sanctity of public comment, but I just would like the public to know that's not the case. When we received them, we also distributed them widely amongst all of the council members, and they are part of public record, which is why, but however, because we had to have a new meeting technically with this nomination, then we opened it all up again for that process. So I just want people to know that we take it very seriously, and we respect all the public comments. They were filed accordingly, and we also, out of an abundance of caution, ensured that each council member also received them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Sullivan, who will also read the comments.
The first comment is from Wayne Everard, not a paid representative. New Orleans Public Library will be seeking a new operating millage later this year. Its board of directors should be fully supportive of this effort. Mr. Henry, on the contrary, took a position last year that, in my opinion, was not in the best interest of a fully funded library. I do not think he is an appropriate candidate for board membership at this time. The next comment is by John Lavin, not a paid representative. While it is atypical for the council to reject a political appointee at the Governmental Affairs Committee level, this level of approval would not need to exist if it couldn't be utilized to do so, and if the authors of the city charter did not foresee the possibility that unacceptable appointees might come before the council from time to time. Please reject putting Dana Henry, who helped organize a library defunding campaign, on a library board, no matter who asked you to. The next comment is from Karem Ozcan, not a paid representative. Like many members of the public, I remain deeply concerned about the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. In December, New Orleans voters issued an edict clear as day in rejecting proposition number 2. Mr. Henry coordinated campaign activities and strategies for the Yes campaign. I'm a citizen who values the library and believes those on the library board should protect it. From where I'm sitting, this isn't a complicated political calculus. It's time we appoint true allies to the library, to the board. It's time to listen to the voters. Next comment is by Jack Reno Sweeney, not a paid representative, commenting on appointment F, Dana Henry, NOPL board. It is unfortunate that this hearing was delayed 2 weeks and the public given extremely short notice, considering the deluge of comments opposed to the nomination of Dana Henry to the library board. His nomination is deeply inappropriate, as his interest with the library diametrically opposed to those of the public. This is made clear by his record of substantial contributions of time, labor, and money to the Yes on 2 campaign, which voters roundly rejected. Someone that dedicated to dismantling and defunding the public library system in our city has no place on its board. It is a clear conflict of interest and violation of voters' trust and will as expressed at the ballot box. Reject this nomination. The next comment is by Melissa Fleming, not a paid representative. Please vote against the appointment of Dana Henry to the NOPL's board. He actively advocated for Prop 2, which if had passed, would have significantly damaged the library's ability to serve its community. Considering you already received more than 100 comments asking you to reject this person's appointment when it was first proposed on January 21st, it's very difficult to trust that the council has the best interests of the community and thus the library at heart. Rejecting his appointment would be an excellent step towards rebuilding trust that the council will approve a full millage renewal. The next comment is by Brenda Flora, not a paid representative. Dana Henry has made it clear that he does not support funding our library. This man has no earthly business being on the library board. Renew our library millage at its current rate and appoint a library board member who will fight for our library, not against it. Next comment is by Jason Krupa, not a paid representative. I oppose Dana Henry's appointment to the library board and I demand a full millage renewal in 2021. Last year, Dana Henry worked to gut the library's funding and in my opinion has no business sitting on the board of this important civic institution. The next comment is by Bob Morrell, not a paid representative. There's a reason council has a vote on board appointees, and I strongly urge the council to use their vote to not approve Mr. Henry to the library board. He has not demonstrated that the library needs its current millage rate to be able to sustain the high usage rate the library experiences. Your no vote aligns with the public. The people associated with the misinformation campaign from December should not be on the library board. The next comment is by Howard Senor, not a paid representative. I'm opposed to the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. She is no friend of the NO Public Library and as such should not sit on the board. The next comment is by Elizabeth Parmenter, not a paid representative. No to Dana H for library board. Get this straight, we want our libraries funded and we're going to watch to see if you vote to appoint her. If you appoint her, kiss your reelection goodbye. We watching your moves, never forget that. Y'all work for us and we want our libraries funded, so get your priorities straight or lose your job next election. Next comment is by Carolyn Keys, not a paid representative. I strongly oppose the nomination of Dana Henry. He worked against the will of residents of New Orleans as evidenced by the vote in December. It would be a grave error to appoint him to the library committee. Next comment is by Micah Backer, not a paid representative. It's simple. The library board ought to support the library, not attempt to cut its budget by 40%. I oppose Dana Henry's appointment to the library board. I demand a full millage renewal in 2021. The next comment is by Chelsea Shannon, not a paid representative. Dana Henry would be an inappropriate addition to the NOPL board, especially at this juncture. Mr. Henry vocally and amply supported last year's Prop 2, which would have decimated the library's budget to the detriment of its employees and patrons. Our library system is well used and well loved. Low-income people and so disproportionately Black people, people of color, single-parent families, and disabled people especially need the library. Mayor Cantrell's Prop 2 campaign was full of misinformation, and it was roundly defeated by voters who saw through the slant. Libraries are essential. The library board should be staffed with people who want to see the organization thrive for our city, not people who want to divert its resources. In the past few years, the library used virtually all of its allotted funds. Any reduction to the NOPL budget, which the record strongly suggests Mr. Henry would advocate, would hurt the library and so the people of New Orleans. The next comment is by Sarah Hill, not a paid representative. Number 7, please do not elect Dana Henry to the board. He does not support the libraries and he actively distributed propaganda to the public about Prop 2. He wants to defund the library. The next comment is by Luke Sirenides. Apologies for the pronunciation. Not a paid representative. Why is Dana Henry even being considered for a position on the library board given his transparent history of work to gut the library funding by 40% during the last special election? I unequivocally oppose his appointment, and we, the voters, will be carefully watching to ensure those who oppose the public library will not be elected to public office in the future. The next comment is by Charlie Benny, not a paid representative. Dana Henry is an entirely inappropriate choice for an appointment to the library board. His involvement in the campaign to raid the library's budget is disqualifying, and his nomination speaks volumes about whose interests this council represents. The next comment is by Aaron Kidder, not a paid representative. The library board should support the library, not attempt to cut its budget by 40%. The city overwhelmingly opposed Prop 2 in November, and voters have spoken. We want a fully funded library. I oppose Dana Henry's appointment to the library board and would like a full millage renewal in 2021. Next comment is by Emily Zlotnick. not a paid representative. I support the nomination of Dana Henry to the library board. This nomination will help city agencies better serve children and vulnerable populations by connecting public education to NOPL. Dana's work at Urban League and his advocacy for early education will be a beneficial resource for the library board. It is important we connect different agencies with one another to ensure services are better coordinated. The next comment is by Kelsey Chapman, a paid representative. F, New Orleans Public Library Board, Dana Henry. I oppose the appointment of Dana Henry to the New Orleans Public Library Board. Dana Henry attempted to get the library against the will of the voters, myself included, who turned out in droves to oppose the budget reallocation. I worry that Dana Henry represents the interests of neoliberal, disaster capitalist force that are slowly gutting our public services and social safety nets in the name of development. The library is a vital asset to the city. Dana Henry is not worthy of this appointment. I demand a full millage renewal for the New Orleans Public Library in 2021. Full stop. The next comment is by Jocelyn A. Bear, not a paid representative. Agenda item F. Please do not vote to put Dana Henry on as a library board member. He was for Prop 1 and wants to take millage away from the library. Next comment is by Matthew Roberts, not a paid representative. The New Orleans Public Library is a necessary and a valued public asset serving the public good. I oppose Dana Henry's appointment to the library board and demand a full millage renewal in 2021. The next comment is by Julian Lutz, not a paid representative. I am once again submitting for public comment my unequivocal opposition to the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. I find it unconscionable that the city council would even consider ignoring the public mandate by placing someone that supported gutting the library's budget on said library's board. Public confidence in City Hall as bad as it is, this is an opportunity to demonstrate you will serve your constituents and not those who view this city, its culture, and people as a commodity. The next comment is by Christina Doherty, not a paid representative. Obviously, the appointment of Mr. Henry does not align with the best interests of the library, as evidenced by the overwhelming objections to his nomination in Proposition 2, which he supported. The libraries of our city serve on so many ways, broadening our minds, giving access to resources for those who would otherwise not have computer access, and so much more. My family used to go to the library every Sunday. We knew the people who worked there. We met community members. Our children heard stories and were inspired. And my family is fortunate enough that we could afford to pay for these opportunities. Libraries allow us to have the same opportunities for everyone. Please protect our libraries. Listen to the people in the community. Vote no to Mr. Henry's nomination, as we voted no to Proposition 2. Next comment is by Carla Williams, not a paid representative. I am absolutely against the appointment of Dana Henry to the NOPL Library Board. Clearly, you weren't satisfied with the results of the December special election, and you're still attempting to destroy our libraries. Shame on any and all of you that would support his nomination in clear contradiction of the will of the voters. We will not forget. The next comment is by John McDonald Mac Lehman, not a paid representative. I absolutely oppose the appointment of Dana Henry to the Library Board. Please fully renew the library millage in 2021. The next comment is by Laura Meager, not a paid representative. Please do not appoint Dana Henry to the library board. Dana Henry does not support the library and should not be a representative on its governing body. The next comment is by Avery Smith, not a paid representative. I am commenting in opposition to the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. Mr. Henry's public support for Proposition 2, which sought to divert funds away from the library, shows clearly that he does not have the library's best interest at heart. We need people appointed to the library board who want to protect library resources and funding, not divert funds and resources away from the library, and by extension, the most vulnerable members of our community who rely on those resources the most. I strongly oppose the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. The next comment is by Erin Fannin, not a paid representative. It is unconscionable that the council would consider appointing Dana Henry to the library board. Henry, in support of Mayor Cantrell's failed attempted gutting of the NOPL budget, has shown himself to not be an appropriate choice for determining what is best for the library. The city council should, without hesitation or reservation, reject Dana Henry's appointment. New Orleans deserves library board members who support and understand NOPL and its mission. The next comment is by Emmanuel Segura, not a paid representative. Why were the 150 plus public comments speaking against Dana Henry thrown out? And why did we have to find out from the Big Easy publication? It is unacceptable for Dana, who is proven beyond a shadow of doubt to have been working with Yes on 2 organizations during the most recent vote to defund the libraries, to be appointed. We voted for dedicated millages for the library, and we wanted it to stay that way. I'm a member of Unite Here Local 23, and this hits home. Hospitality workers have been decimated by the pandemic. So why extend this misery by choice to city workers? Next comment is by Hannah Ligon, not a paid representative. I do not support Dana Henry's appointment to the library board, and I urge you to vote no on his confirmation. Dana Henry was a huge supporter of the proposition to defund the library, and as we saw December 5th, the public emphatically does not support this measure. Our library needs board members who care about preserving this beloved and vital public institution. Given his vigorous promotion of a measure that would strip away library funding, combined with his support for the charter school system that has privatized and made a mess of our community's public schools, it seems clear that Dana Henry does not have the preservation of our public libraries in mind, and thus should not be appointed to its board. The next comment is by Noam Al-Ghazi, not a paid representative. As a constituent, I'm vehemently opposed to the appointment of Dana Henry. The voters have spoken in rejecting Prop 2. Appointing Henry is at odds with the will of the voters. The next comment is by Shannon De Corral, not a paid representative. Library board members should be representatives of the community who support funding the library, and not someone who is part of the mayor's efforts to shuffle library funds into the pockets of those in power. Gilbert Montano left a lot of information about the library coffers out of his PowerPoint. City Hall's financial system, brass, makes it extremely difficult for the library to spend money. Also, vendors don't want to work with the city because the city doesn't pay their bills on time. Fix these problems before appointing a proponent of defending the library. Andrea Neighbors is the type of person who should be on the library board. She is honest and thinks about the best interests of the people. Next comment is by Chastity Holiday, not a paid representative. Please vote against agenda item F and do not appoint Dana Henry to the NLPL's board. Next comment is by Lydia Smith, not a paid representative. This comment is regarding item F, Dana Henry. As a proud New Orleans public library patron, I am very disappointed to see the library board is once again trying to appoint Dana Henry to the board. During the election for Proposition 2, Dana Henry supported the proposition, which would have drastically cut library funding. He worked hard to pass Proposition 2. Thankfully, the concerned citizens in New Orleans voted a resounding no on Proposition 2. Still, any person such as Dana Henry who worked to cut library funding is not an appropriate person for the library board, as working to cut library funding demonstrates he does not have the best interest of the library in mind. Find someone else to appoint to the library board. Thank you. Next comment is by Courtney Kearney, not a paid representative. I'm writing this public comment again to state my strong disapproval of Dana Henry for the NOPL board. Mr. Henry financially supported the Vote Yes campaign for Proposition 2, which, as you know, would have gutted the library's budget and cost workers their jobs through a misinformation campaign. No person who actively campaigned to gut the library should be appointed to a 9-year library board position. These positions are for those who will act in the best interest of the library. I'm baffled that the mayor continues to disregard the public's loud vote of support for the library by pushing for this insulting nomination. I hope you realize that if Mr. Henry is appointed, the public's displeasure will be high and it will not be forgotten. Vote no on the amendment of Dana Henry, and please do not disregard the 100+ comments submitted 2 weeks ago in support of vote no. The next comment is by Regina Fields, not a paid representative. I oppose the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. His support of the drastic cuts to the library millage is counterproductive to advocating for and supporting the library and its mission. It would be like putting someone on the school board who wants to cut school funding by 40%. Please reconsider this appointment. The next comment is by Brianna Cervantes, not a paid representative. Do not appoint Dana Henry to the NOPL board. Are y'all crazy? He donated time and $ to the campaign aimed at massively cutting the library's budget, a decision the people of New Orleans were very clear about where they stand. We want our libraries fully funded. Dana, through his actions, has shown his desires are in direct conflict with what the people want. And what's more is he told y'all he didn't have a conflict of interest. Come on. The next comment is by Dixon Stetler, not a paid representative. Dana Henry is not a good fit for the library board. The position should be filled by someone who understands the importance of the library within our community and who can oversee the budget we are working to secure for the next 20 years. Mr. Henry has proven direct conflict of interest in fulfilling this duty. The city must finally stop playing politics with the library. The next comment is by Thomas Schmidt, not a paid representative. Dana Henry does not belong on the library board. His past attempts to undermine the library were voted down by the people of New Orleans, and he should not even be considered for any position having to do with the library. Tell him to stick to his day job. The next comment is by Alex Jennings, not a paid representative. Dana Henry should not be anywhere near the library board. I don't understand why the appointment is being attempted over and over. He is not a friend to the library and should stay away from it. I believe the appointing him would do the library terrible harm, which as an educator and author and taxpaying citizen both disgusts and irritates me. Do not do this. Next comment is by Patrick Driscoll, not a paid representative. I'm writing to oppose the nomination of Dana Henry. Mr. Henry has spent considerable time and effort to cut library funding via his support of Prop 2 in the last election. This was overwhelmingly defeated by a huge margin of voters. It was a total resounding defeat. It seems obvious that Mr. Henry's views on library funding are way out of line with the citizens of New Orleans. He has no place on the board. His positions are not in line with voters. Mr. Henry has no place near a library unless he's checking out a book. The next comment is by Felici Astainza. And again, apologies for the pronunciation. Not a paid representative. I do not support putting Dana Henry on the board at NOPL. We need people that will fight for the library and all of the things it contributes to our community, not try to fit the budget. Next comment is by Ali Doherty. Not a paid representative. Do not re-elect Dana Henry to the NOPL board. Why would you elect a board member who has shown explicit disinterest for the success of NOPLs? The libraries are one of the last remaining public services that are truly for the people. Thusly, the people will not let our city or Mr. Henry gut the library budget. The next comment is by Catherine Trevino, not a paid representative. I live in New Orleans and one of countless citizens who uses library services. I love our public libraries, and because of that, I am asking the City Council to oppose the appointment of Dana Henry to the library board. How can he faithfully serve the library and its patrons when he attempted to gut its funding? I also demand a full millage renewal for 2021. The people of New Orleans love the library, so let us love it fully. Next comment is by Marissa Clohern, not a paid representative. This deferment was obviously made in hopes that people would lose interest, forget to resubmit their comment, and this appointment could be pushed through with as little pushback or attention as possible. But people are paying attention, will continue to pay attention, even more so now that you all have continuously demonstrated that you intend to be as nefarious in these proceedings as possible. We do not want Dana Henry appointed. We do not want anyone interested in undercutting libraries and their funding appointed. We have spoken on this issue repeatedly in many different ways. This is so embarrassing for y'all. We aren't going away, and we won't stop commenting and fighting on all y'all on this. Expletive no to Dana Henry. Next comment is by Marianne Desmarais, not a paid representative. Do not appoint Dana Henry to the library board. Thank you. Next comment is by Christopher Guzman, not a paid representative. I oppose Dana Henry's appointment to the library board and that you demand a full millage renewal in 2021. The public voted against Prop 2, which would have resulted in the cut of the library's funding. This is a clear message that the public wants a full millage renewal. Mr. Henry was a paid consultant who assisted in efforts to cut the library's funding, and it's unconscionable to appoint him to the library board. Next comment is by Camille Harden, not a paid representative. Dana Henry should not be allowed to lead an organization that attempted to gut. Restricting lead an organization they attempted to gut. Restricting funding to libraries is an act of white supremacy and a system that perpetuates such inequity. There are 150 comments against the appointment of Dana Henry that were deleted for some reason. There was clear public opposition to defunding the library in December, and the public remains clear about the appointments of Dana Henry. Please do not allow vital services to be taken away from children and community members or by Dana Henry or anyone else. Thank you for doing your elected job and listening to your constituents. Perhaps Dana Henry would be interested in helping defund the police since they have such a demonstrated passion for budgeting. The next comment is by Patrick Dobard, not a paid representative. I'm Patrick Dobard, former superintendent of the Recovery School District and current chief executive officers for New Schools for New Orleans. It is my distinct honor to support Dana Henry's appointment to the New Orleans Public Library Board. Dana currently serves as the executive director of institutional advancement at Einstein Charter School. Prior to that, he was the director of community engagement at the Urban League of Louisiana. Throughout his career, Dana has shown consistent dedication to community organizing and outreach. Notably, he has been an advocate for education, our city's most precious resource, our children. Our local school system is characterized by a unique population of students. 91% are students of color, 83% are economically disadvantaged, and 13% are students with disabilities. As a native New Orleanian, Dana possesses a thorough understanding of our city's unique demographics and educational needs. This insight will be an asset to the New Orleans Public Library Board. As an educator, I recognize the intersectionality of our work. At this critical time in our nation and our city, it is so important to encourage synergy between public education and our public library. Dana's appointment to the New Orleans Public Library Board will do just that, fostering more strategic, efficient, effective, and aligned services. His expertise and contributions will signify a shift in our city, breaking down silos. Instead, these related entities can come together and share insight to serve vulnerable populations. Now is the time to work together with a renewed sense of purpose in preparing our earliest learners to fully appreciate and benefit from our public library's resources. My career in education has spanned over 30 years. I can recognize the traits of tenacious advocate and leader. Dana not only serves with humility and dedication, he also inspires others to provide real support to children, improving their life outcomes. I'm happy to support his appointment to the New Orleans Public Library Board. I remain, as always, for the children, Patrick Dobard. Next comment is by Henry Chamberlain, not a paid representative. I'm writing for the second time to voice my strong opposition to the appointment of Mr. Dana Henry to the board of the New Orleans Public Library. Mr. Henry has publicly supported Proposition 2, which the citizens of New Orleans voted overwhelmingly against. It is imperative that the new appointment represent the will of the people and not the personal and political interests of the city council and their business partners. I'd also like to express how alarmed I am that the City Council decided to discard dozens of legitimate public comments that I received the first time it tried and failed to appoint Mr. Henry to the board. I believe this amounts to censorship of public opinion, something that elected officials should never do or tolerate. Next comment is by Amy Hubble, not a paid representative. Regarding the proposed appointment of Dana Henry to the New Orleans Public Library Board, I would like to express my concern and alarm. The NOPL should be composed of people who understand the role that innovative and well-funded libraries can play in preparing New Orleans youth and adults to face the challenge of 2021 and beyond, listen to and represent the community's needs and desires regarding the libraries, have a history of advocating for libraries and the library mission, have experience developing and implementing sound and effective strategies. Perhaps most importantly, and we should have learned this by now, the board should be made up of people with unquestioned motives and ethics. Dana Henry does not appear to fit this bill. Next comment is by Cindy Murphy, not a paid representative. Ms. Murphy's comments is the same as Ms. Hubble's comment. Regarding the proposed appointment to Dana Henry to the New Orleans Public Library Board, I would like to express my concern and alarm. The New Orleans Public Library Board should be composed of people who understand the role that innovative and well-funded libraries can play in preparing New Orleans youth and adults to face the challenges of 2021 and beyond, listen to and represent the community's needs and desires regarding the libraries, have a history of advocating for the libraries and the library mission, have experience developing and implementing sound and effective strategies. Perhaps most importantly, we should have learned this by now, the board should be made up of people with unquestioned motives and ethics. Dana Henry does not appear to fit this bill. Next comment is by Melanie Coons, not a paid representative. I oppose the appointment to the library board. It's inappropriate to appoint someone who has campaigned against library funding. New Orleans benefits greatly from a strong public library system and needs to be preserved in these difficult times. The next comment is by Greta Hayes. And that is the same form comment that Ms. Hubble and Ms. Murphy did. The next comment is by Ryan Miller. As a taxpaying citizen, voting citizen of the city of New Orleans, I am opposed to the appointment of Dana Henry to a position of the New Orleans Public Library Board. I believe that even putting him forward for consideration for the position is in bad faith and not in keeping with the overall will of the people of New Orleans and their vision for the New Orleans Public Libraries. Mr. Dana Henry made his support of Proposition 2 completely clear, and that is diametrically opposed to the will that was shown by the people of New Orleans when they voted against Proposition 2. Rather, someone whose opinions are more in line with the opinions of the people that the library serves should be appointed to the New Orleans Public Library Board. Members of the New Orleans City Council, your constituents are uncompromising in our unwillingness to cut the library budget. They have shown this time and time again at the ballot box. It is a failure of the members of the council if someone with ideas that are so drastically against the will of the people is placed on the board. I believe that New Orleans is a progressive city. At the heart of progress is an educated people, and one of the greatest institutions for education is the public library system. Available to all with no membership restrictions, no requirements for entry. It is an institution which should be uplifted as a benchmark for public service instead of financially gutted. New Orleans may have its faults, but its library system is not one of them. I do not trust Mr. Henry to be on New Orleans Public Library Board after his support and promotion of Proposition 2. Next comment, do not appoint Dana Henry. He will do harm to the organization. Excuse me. Next comment is by Bree Bolden, not a paid representative. Do not appoint Dana Henry. He will do harm to the organization. The next comment is by Tina Fausho, not a paid representative. It is the same form comment that has already been stated that has the 4 points about what a board member should ascribe to. Next comment is by Leighton Barrett Strong, not a paid representative. That is the same form comment as was previously stated. Next comment is by Donna Stetler, not a paid representative. I know the critical role that public libraries fulfill in every community. In an environment that is destroying public education, libraries are desperately needed in New Orleans. Books, access to community computers, a safe and quiet fostering place in which students can learn. How can you possibly consider taking away funding? Louisiana is so low in the rankings of United States education. You'd prefer to lower it even more in order to cultivate tourism. These children are our future. Don't throw them away. The next comment is by Gina P., not a paid representative. In the face of increased distrust of intellectualism and reason, we need a robust public library system, something that Dana Henry has already demonstrated some disinterest in supporting. Please do not appoint Dana Henry to the New Orleans Public Library Board. The next comment is by Kimberly Cadena. It is the same form comment as has been previously read. The next comment is by Angela Driscoll, not a paid representative. I'm concerned about the proposed appointment of Dana Henry to the New Orleans Public Library Board. I feel that the library provides extremely important services to the community and deserves people on the board that promotes and protects the interests of the library and its services. It is clear that the New Orleans community values its library, and it would be more than unfortunate to have Dana Henry as one of its board members. We need library board members who will listen to the community and its wants to have library services that help all citizens who see value in a fully funded library system and will act as an advocate for the library's needs to fulfill its mission. Dana Henry is far from that person. Next comment is by Ms. Tiffany T. Crawford, not a paid representative. I've been disappointed by the opposition and misinformation that has been disseminated relative to Mr. Dana Henry's proposed appointment to the library. I've known Dana Henry for over 25 years. He is a fearless leader, a dedicated public servant, and a staunch advocate for the education of children. To think that there would be opposition to someone who has spent his professional life advocating for others is contemptible. To see the attacks that he has endured because he supported a proposition that would provide resources to educate children is alarming. The opposition is framing a narrative that suggests that he is somehow a proponent for dismantling the library because he supports having more resources to educate children. The narrative is blatantly untrue, as he has supported the library and literacy initiatives. I would hope that the council would reject this falsity and confirm Dana Henry's appointment. Diversity of culture and thought is the cornerstone of democracy. We must continue our efforts to have diverse representation that makes sound decisions based on facts. Dana Henry would be an asset to the library. His contributions to the city of New Orleans and moreover to families confirm that fact. The next comment is by Noah Tapper, not a paid representative. I oppose Dana Henry's appointment to the board. I don't have faith in their ability to fight for the well-being of this important institution. The next comment is by Irene Wainwright, not a paid representative. I object to the appointment of Dana Henry to the NOPL board. The NOPL board of directors and the NOPL administration must be fully committed to renewing the library millage in 2021. Mr. Henry does not inspire confidence in those who are determined that NOPL continues to prosper. The millage is crucial to that. I am a retired employee of New Orleans Public Library. The part of the library that I worked in for more than 24 years, the Louisiana Division / City Archives, preserves the history of the city and of the library itself. If you want to know what it used to look like before we had a millage, call the Louisiana Division at the New Orleans Public Library and ask them. They have the records and can let you know how bad it really was. The board needs full commitment. Please find a more enthusiastic representative than Mr. Henry. The next comment is by Willow Bailey, not a paid representative. The citizens of New Orleans have publicly rejected not only the disingenuously presented gutting of our public libraries via the electoral process, but have objected to the election of Dana Henry, a large supporter and proponent of propositions 1 through 3 that aim to gut our libraries to corporate slush funds. Allowing him to sit on this board is a flagrant conflict of interest, and the city and its people deserve better. Appoint someone who actually cares about our robust library system and the services it provides to the community, as well as support for early childhood education, rather than Dana Henry, corporate shill at law. That's it. Council members, that is 30 minutes of public comment.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Council members, well, first, I don't know if Mr. Henry, if you'd like to respond to anything you said. I'm impressed that you were able to sit through that and that you desire to sit through it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Nothing. I said, is there any comment that you would like, since we've had such an extensive, exhaustive public comment?
No, the only thing I'll say is I think a lot of the comments are reach a conclusory statement that because I supported Prop 2 that I would automatically support to defund the library. And to Councilmember Moreno's question earlier, that is not what I plan to do. I plan to be a prudent board member, to work with the existing staff to make sure that we can do more with less, because we can assume that because of the sales tax revenues that are down, citywide and statewide because of COVID, that we may be asked to do less. But by no means would I ever support defunding the library at all. But I want to make sure that as much as we can get to spend on city services as a library, we will do. And my position before on Prop 2 will have nothing to do with my service to the board moving forward.
Great, thank you. Are there any other comments from any of the council members? No? I would just like to make a few quick comments. I appreciate the passion in some of these comments, and a lot of it has been repeated from the earlier ones. I do want to say, I am equally as passionate about these libraries, so much so that one of the first times when I ran and won my first term was based on reopening our neighborhood library and our neighborhood libraries throughout the city, as well as our regional libraries, which at the time in 2010 weren't even open post-Katrina. Our Algiers Regional Library branch was the last one to get open. And then we fought very hard to get our local smaller libraries open. And I totally agree with Mr. Henry that we need to look at the geography of New Orleans East when we talk about smaller libraries, because I saw firsthand as a mother and as a volunteer in the community and going to our neighborhood libraries, what a resource it is to our children, especially to families that do not have access to the internet, and also to the elderly that do not have access. So I appreciate the passion, but I also want to push back a little bit from the council perspective, from my perspective, and saying I'm equally as passionate, so much so that I helped run the grassroots campaign to get that first library millage. And so I am equally passionate. And so I did look, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted Mr. Henry to come to this committee hearing to hear it. I do not agree with the comments when we talk about if you are for or against one thing, that automatically makes you against something else. Just to say that he is for early childhood education does not mean that he is against the libraries. Mr. Henry did not write the millage language, the ballot language that came in front of the voters. He was supporting early childhood education. He was not against the libraries. I want to add that Mr. Henry has also been a volunteer on the Library Foundation. And you've supported the library in other ways, in shapes and forms before that. And I also think too, the tenor of some of these comments gives me pause. Mr. Henry is not my appointment. We know he's the mayor's appointment, but you know, it does give me pause because I don't know, I'm a big sister and I just don't like it when people start putting out stuff that they're really not aware of. Half the comments called them Mrs. Dana or Ms. Dana Henry. So they didn't do their research on who this person was. And so that kind of bothered me. And I think that we have to look at a time in our political life where people are also so passionate about things that they go on opposite sides of an issue and they stay there entrenched. I think Mr. Henry will be able to bring the two sides together because of his dedication to children and to education. And all of you who are so passionate about the libraries also mean that you're also incredibly passionate about children and about education. And I think we all know that in order for our children to succeed in this city that is so very poor, that we have to focus on early childhood education and we have to get our children to be reading at grade. And if that is the passion that I think will bring both of these sides together, then so be it. And so that is why I'm supporting Mr. Henry. And I do hope that I do feel that he's strong enough to bring all the sides together. And I do hope that all these public comments that are so passionate about the library continue, and they continue in partnership to make all of our system better. So with that, I know we have a motion and it's been seconded. Can we please have a vote? Paul? Okay. Paul, are you there? Paul is not there. Thank you. Paul, would you do the roll call right before the vote, just so we can make sure, please, that we have everyone back?
Yes, 1 second. All right, apologies. Councilmember Gisselson Palmer, Chair, present. Councilmember Moreno, present. Councilmember Giarrusso, present. Councilmember Brosette,
Present.
and Councilmember Nguyen.
Present.
We have 5 members and a quorum.
Thank you. And to reiterate, we had a motion, I think it was approved by Councilmember Brosette and seconded by Councilmember Nguyen. Is that correct? Other way around.
It was the other way around.
Sorry. Moved by Councilmember Nguyen, seconded by Councilmember Brosette. May we please have a vote? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposition? Any abstention? No. All in favor. Thank you very much. Thank all of you for your time. And once again, I do want to thank the public for their passion. It's always very much welcomed. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Giarrusso, seconded by Council President Moreno. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?